Welcome back to My Hero Academia Anime Review, episode number 220. Spoilers! Yes, I'm here reviewing the brand new My Hero Academia movie, the fourth movie released, My Hero Academia, You're Next! Yes, interesting fun fact, that's actually, the thing with the subtitle is, it's actually the first, and this is noteworthy that this is the first one that did not have the word hero in the title. Awesome. So, the first movies usually take place, like the previous movie that came out, World Heroes Mission, take place during the Endeavor arc, and the second movie is set after the Endeavor arc. The first movie is set after the arc they had at the end of season 2 of the show. This one, you can easily put exactly where this film takes place, given the dialogue, and there's a character missing for this movie. Now, where does this fit in terms of the My Hero Academia timeline, in terms of story arcs? This movie is set based upon dialogue. When we see a character problem later in the movie, this is set before Final War, and I'll get to the reason why later on. So, when I went to go see this movie, for some strange reason, I don't know why this was, the movie theater I went to decided to play a movie a trailer in Spanish, a movie about Mufasa. It looked like it's a prequel to the live-action Lion King movie. And it's playing our trailer and advertising for the thing. We open the movie up with a guy who clearly is a fan of All Might, watching sort of a, from what I can tell in a way, basically he's watching stock footage from season 3 of the show. Well, basically late season 3. It was the Hero Raid arc. Excuse me, it was the Hideout Raid arc. That's basically what this footage is from. And the point, like you think it's like, oh yeah, you're next, and he thinks he is the one to do it. And this guy's wearing a mask, and then we cut to present day. Where, by the way, this guy is showing a picture. He has on a table a glass of wine, and we'll reveal who this guy is later on. So then we cut to now you can clearly tell this is definitely set. This is set before the events of Final War. Now, this also is the first movie to feature something that was established at the Paramount Liberation War arc, where buildings are heavily damaged, but they haven't been fixed yet. And the reason is because of all the villains breaking out and all the damage. Now, the heroes do not have negative reputation in this movie. Yes, for some reason. Now, prior to this, the heroes had their public reception, their reputation had plummeted thanks to Dabi and his stuff. So, either it's been sort of somewhat fixed, but it's not affecting everybody, but they listen to heroes. So, we have these 3 random villains. One looks like he shoots lightning bolts out of his hands, like I think he's Zeus. One looks like he controls trucks, and he looks like a strong guy. And apparently Class 1A has got these trucks. Now, Deku's on a team what looks like to be Ochaku, Tape, Tail. I think there's one also with I think it was like Bakudo, Froppy, Ingenium, Sugarman. Yeah, and there's even Shu's got a team too, which that's interesting. Yeah, and the reason why this is because throughout the later half of the series, they're pushing the big 3. The big 3 primary characters of the My Hero Academia franchise. That being Deku, Bakudo, and Shudo. These 3 are the primary stars of the show, and everyone else is basically supporting characters. And of the 3, Shudo is the only one who actually is a second generation hero. While in the case of Bakudo and Deku, they are basically current generation heroes who are not sons of famous superheroes. Now, in the case of Shudo in the series, he is one of 2 in Class 1A who is a relative of somebody who is already established superhero. The other being Ingenium. So they're all basically rescue people, and they arrest criminals, and of course Delphi and brag oh, we captured 3 criminals. Back up, I captured 4. And he was like, this is not a contest. And then oh yeah, there's this guy who's got get this, he has a mouth in his stomach. He's an escapee, so go catch him. Deku's close by, so he takes him on. He looks different when he sees him. He's like, he got these strings out of his arms. He's going through buildings. He's going through alleyways. He's currently also dragging along a young girl with him, who's it says, basically no, he's not letting him go. And this girl's apparently has got this weird. They don't explain it at first. They don't explain until much later in the movie of what the heck she's doing, where she touches Deku and there's flowers and he's in pain. It looks like he's about to lose consciousness. And then, by the way, we also see this red hair guy who's got this razor sharp teeth. Why his teeth like this? Don't know. He's also got an eye patch. He looks like he's a well dressed cyborg butler who's looking for this one girl who turns out to be this Anna woman. So, him shooting at her, and of course there's a guy, and of course the catch with him, of course he uses what looks like it was sort of a time stop, slow down thing. When I saw this guy, he looks like, I look at him, he almost kind of looks like an older Lupin III. Yes. Then Deku sees and we see this floating ship. Yeah, and it's and Deku sees, and everyone's oh crap, it's All Might. Wait, that's All Might. And of course, Danger's going off. Yeah, this is an imposter. You think he's going next to a piece. And by the way, his butler, the guy who's worked with him, he is this. Get this, he's My Hero Academia's version of the Penguin. Yes. Let me introduce this guy. This is Dark Might. And, actually first he thinks he's All Might. At first. Yes. And then of course they identify who these people are. This is the Garrone family. The most powerful crime family in Europe. I have a funny feeling that this mafia family is loosely inspired by maybe The Godfather, whatever. Heck, there's a flashback later on where apparently Bruno is very ruthless with his own father. And you can hear gunshots when he's firing his gun, and he basically murdered his own father in cold blood. Oh, and here's the thing. He's voiced by Sabat. Yeah, Christopher Sabat basically voices him. So then we have this woman, this very beautiful woman, whose name is Deborah, and she uses her power to brainwash her with her eyes. And her hair, and you see her hair turning black because of an ability because of her quirk. And then of course he has usable to create, they use these coins to create cameras, he's spotlight. I think he's next symbol of peace. Yep. And then he basically consumes all the heroes that are the Class 1A and a bunch of civilians to create this gigantic ship that has a bunch of All Might statues. Yes. Of course, everybody's separate. Of course, Deku's group ends up in the jungle. I think Baku's group ends up near looks like a city that looks similar to Venice. And that's Shudo's group. Bakudo's ends up a different place. Actually, no, his ended up basically near a freaking castle. Which, of course, basically Deku for a season shut up, you imposter. By the way, before this, he contacts the real All Might. And because the fact All Might does not recognize the successor because he's already chosen the successor, it's not you. Also, when we know this set after, like, well after the whole thing, like, before the final chapter, final battle, is because everybody knows, because the whole classway knows the fact about Deku's power, all one knows about what exactly the thing is. And we see in the movie he uses not only the strength thing, float, black whip, smoke screen, a little bit of gear stuff. Like, basically uses all the quirks here. He does use gear shit, but he does pretty much use like a lot of your abilities. So basically, it's a dark mic and makes things evil. So then Deku, like, they'll recognize the fact this guy is clearly a big All Might fan because they find a manhole cover that clearly has basically All Might's face on it, and Deku says nothing about it. Here's the thing. I'm not blaming the dubcast for this. It's not their fault. It's the people who wrote this movie. Like, the only people who knows the fact about the All Might statues is Shudo's group. Yes. So, Deku and Ochaku go down this hole, and then Deku's quirk gets sealed because someone using similar quirk to erase her head. Of course, Ochaku back up, and of course, they kind of quickly find him. And they go down, find a mountain range, and then they end up in the same place Shudo's group. And Shudo's group, they up in the city, and they see Deborah and Anton basically knock people out. And of course, they can put in a daydream where Momo is drinking tea. Shudo has a family, including Dabi, who's perfectly fine, and his parents fine too. And get this, Kaminari and Menta basically surrounded by a bunch of beautiful babes. It's like, ooh, yes. Yeah, it looks like also shown that Earjack is like rocking out in her thing. And Jenny was basically running with his brother. And of course, Deku is effective as too, and he's like, All Might everywhere, and he's the only All Might, despite the fact that this actually is true with him. Yep. So then he meets up with Julio, who actually made his debut in the main anime along with Anna in episode 156. So their appearance in the anime is set after the events of this movie, because they were already in the city by the time, like, this movie explains why they're actually in the show. Like, what was now the reason that their appearance in the show was to set this very movie, and this movie is set before that appearance. Makes total sense. And also, like, Dark Might is basically like touching her, and she's enhancing his ability. Yeah, so, and of course we find out what in the world is going on with her. Now, how Julie got basically his way he looks now, because the Flash looks perfectly fine, it's because of this crime family basically bombing her family home and taking her. Her ability is that she can amplify quirks. Yes, that is her ability. She can basically, like, modify. She has a modified quirk. And that's the reason why she was taken and why her father was murdered. And apparently her wish was to have him murder her. Yes. So Deku does get his powers on steel thanks to finding out the guy who freezes stuff, who basically makes bears, is the same person also block his ability. He gets his power back, and of course, basically, he briefly fights. First of 3 times he fights Dark Might. Anyways. Yeah. So, and apparently Deku actually scratched his face after hitting him. He's like, how dare he cut my handsome face? Yes, because he's not very worried about his actual appearance. So, then pretty much all 3 groups eventually meet up in the town square. And of course Deku gets in it too. And he wakes everybody, and of course he knocks out Deborah. Yeah, actually her arm gets broken too during this whole thing. And of course, he's free for the brainwashing thanks to the the previous host of the All for One Quark. The One for All Quark. Yes, basically they freed him from it, which is quite nice. And apparently ends up like a neighborhood. Apparently everyone's like confined to a house. And of course Deku has to wake him up, which he does. And sees the fact that Julia didn't actually want to kill him. He basically wants to save her. So Bakudo calls the shots. Basically has some of the other heroes basically evacuees. Well, he, Todoroki, basically him, Shudo, Todoroki, and Deku go after Dark Might along with Julio. They're at the actual entrance the mansion. By the way, for this, basically, like, after me with all Dark One, they go to the basement, his group, they beat a bunch of monsters, basic creations of his. Oh, and Dark Might's ability is that his quirk is alchemy. Which you're like, what the heck is alchemy? It is science of the Middle Ages. That's basically the best way I can describe it. He basically can create anything he wants to, thanks to stuff like coins. And they show his experiences later, and he's wow, it's so dumb. Also, Squark is responsible for the creation of this giant fortress. So, and they also beat the dungeon boss and beat more monsters. And eventually, later on, let's go back to this. So, before we get to this Coliseum room, where we're monster up, and of course, Dark Shadow basically is there too. Then we also have the Pro Heroes, which is basically just Endeavor. I can't remember his name. This guy who shoots wood. Mount Lady, Burnin, like all the work. Even Marco was there too, with her artificial limbs, and of course Endeavor basically blowing holes, and of course Lemillion basically slips in, which I thought that was really cool. They included basically appearance by Lemillion. I think this actually was Lemillion's very first appearance in the movies. Come think of it, yeah, this was his very first appearance in the movies. Which, that is shocking given the fact this is the 4th movie. He did not appear in the last movie. He did appear in this one. I think Mariko did appear in the last movie. I don't remember if she did or not. I don't think she did. But Lemillion, this actually was his film debut because he did not appear in the last movie. Heck, this is Burning's, I think, second movie she's appeared in. Yeah, so thanks to everyone, of course, the heroes break in. Of course, Tokiyama basically stays behind taking the monsters, while Shudo, Bakudo, and Deku go in with Julian to take on Dark Might, and of course they're stopped by a big guy and a small guy, so Shudo and Bakudo take care of them, while Deku and Julian basically go in and deal with Dark Might and Anna. Eventually the two are taken care of, no problem. Oh, by the way, Lemillion basically does take out one of the villains. He takes him out, what's his name here? Oh, by the way, Polio and like Winterpurse basically, when they're defeated, basically him and Simon are basically just drop through a hole when they're basically defeated. Yeah, Bruno was the one basically. Like one guy named Bruno basically can delay stuff. Oh, and the guy looks like the chameleon, the penguin. His name is Kamai Gori. Yeah, and then pretty much they have a breakthrough, and then after the two other guys defeated, Shudo and Bakudo come in to help out Deku take on Dark Might, and it's really good sequence. It was amazing. Like, oh my gosh, this was so good. Like, and eventually, oh, that's what he looks like, and then he's supposed to defeat it, and then Anna's quirk goes crazy. By the way, Deborah's defeated by Julio, and they don't know exactly what happened to her. She's shown she's not dead. She's just knocked out. They don't really show exactly what happened to her. Oh, by the way, UA, and it's pointed out though of how this takes place in the final chapter is like when the principal UA is like, we need UA intact for the final for the battle with Shiroki. So that is actually evidence to prove the fact this is set before final chapter. Yep. So, and he becomes like a Nemu monster thanks to Ana's ability, and eventually like you have Deku basically all his moves without saying anything. So eventually he's defeated, his fortress is destroyed, and people are cheering the fact this fortress has been defeated. It's like buildings basically destroyed, and I see the way it looks. It looks like almost looks like New York City, but with a bunch of damaged buildings. And then of course the evacuees are help. Of course, Lemillion does help with it. And the pro heroes do help with the evacuees. They all get them all out, and of course they do take out all the monsters. And then like they saved. Then we have post-credit scene where we have All For One smiling and of course and Shimura just waking up. So yeah, that's another way to prove the fact this is set before the whole thing happened. So you can fill this in there. But great movie. The dubcast, fantastic job. Now I heard from Kyle Herb not Carver, it was Kyle Phillips bitches. Apparently this movie was not advertised. Yes, Crunchyroll didn't advertise this movie. Nope. This was advertised, promoted by Toho International. And apparently, My Hero is not a licensed dub, it's a contract dub for them. They have a dub because they're contract to do it. Because, of course, left over from the Funimation stuff. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But great movie overall. Loved it. So, that's pretty much it for this particular review. Please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, turn notifications, tune this. Oh, by the way, as a cameo toward the very end, we do see the unnamed woman who appeared during Dark Hero. She shows up in the movie. The little kid who popped up, who first appeared in few arcs during the whole Force training stuff, he returns to this movie, which shocking to see these two. It's like they'll have alliance, but great cameos by them. We see Bakuto's mom, who looks great for being 38 years old, and Deku's mom too. Yeah, I had to mention that because otherwise people are like, why didn't you mention them? Almost forgot. So, oh, by the way, in the case of Froppy's thing, her whole thing is that basically you see her and her family ribbing of frogs. Ochako's, I don't see hers. I must have missed it, basically. I don't know what her hallucination was. In the case of Tentacruel, it was him with a little girl who inadvertently causes scars, but he doesn't blame her for it at all. Guy was mentioned in the show, he is not mad at her. He's not mad at because he wants basically because the whole thing with the bigotry outside the cities. I do like the fact that a lot of the characters have something to do in this movie. Like, I can think of one character who did not get much anything to do. I mean, if you think about it, I would say Froppy didn't get a lot to do in this movie, but she was there. She had a role. I would say the characters who of the class one, aside from Deku, Bakuto, and Shudo, I'd say Ochaku had a big role in the movie. Like, she had a lot of screen time, got a good amount of lines. I'd say Ingenium got a good amount to do. Momo did too. I think Kaminari, him and Mentos thing is just pure comedy. But I definitely think the movie is held together by basically four main characters who basically just were the driving force of the movie, and they were there a lot of the time. Ochaku had a lot of screens in this movie, got a lot of lines. So just her, Shudo, Bakudo, Deku. Trying to think when their heroes basically got a lot of spotlight in the movie. Because when Deku basically comes out with Julia, the first person he goes to is Otaku. That's the first person he goes to. Doesn't go to anybody else and it's not just because he's close by. I think because basically he's very close with her. I mean, I'm trying to think was any other character got a lot to do aside from those four? Can't think of any, but those are the only four I can think of got a lot to do. Yeah. I mean, All Might was on screen. You saw him a lot. He basically was like a coordinator of all the attacks. Endeavor, wow, he was awesome in this movie. Matt Lady, she had like a few lines. Mark had a few lines. Burning didn't say anything at all. She was there, but no lines. I guess basically no voice of Elisa Ortiz movie, so like Burning was clearly here. Yep. But that's what I gotta say about it. Okay? So yeah, that's a particular review. Please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, turn notifications, and do the like button. Next up, more of My Hero. Okay? Next video. Bye.